afternoon. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Athens City Planning Commission for March 15th, 2007. It's 2:32. We take sworn testimony or statements, so if you plan to say anything, would you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm, whatever you want to do, that you're going to tell the truth? Say, I do. Okay.
I swear.
Okay. He swears, okay. That doesn't sound quite right, does it? All right, we have a quorum present. Mr. Konoshige is not here. He's in Hawaii, I think. It's pretty disgusting. Anyway, we have one case today that's 0618. Fred Weber Jr. is requesting the rezoning of 24.13 acre parcel at the intersection of US 5032 and South Blackburn Road from R1 to R3. Okay, does anyone have a statement which they wish to make? Okay.
I'm Fred Weber II of 6866 South Blackburn Road in Athens. I'm here today to request a change to the 24 plus or minus acres that my sister and I own at the intersection of South Blackburn Road and US Route 1532 from an R1 to an R3. I guess I'm going to go and kind of make my points again as I have previously, so I don't leave any stone unturned. We've been trying to sell this property for a number of years, and it's our opinion or our conclusion that being zoned R1, that there's not any interested developers with that designation. We've been trying to, like I say, we've been trying to sell it, and apparently the cost of development, the infrastructure for that site would be prohibitive in single-family homes. So that's why we're requesting the R3 designation so that multiple residents and conditional development could take place. Currently, we are contiguous to a B2 zone with the Budget Host Motel, and as you go just west of South Blackburn Road, you have the Athens Apartments, which is zone R3, and Westfield Place, which is R3. My neighbors have expressed some concerns that I do take, or we take seriously. The additional traffic to Blackburn Road and the access road, potential blasting, and intersection are all issues that should be addressed. South Blackburn needs improved no matter what we do, and I have to comment that there has been some activity on South Blackburn Road since I initially brought this issue up, and it's appreciated, but more needs to be done. The concern about blasting is real if you think that you're going to build another superhighway such as they did with 33 South or 33 East. I felt that, as my neighbors did, that there was excessive blasting, or maybe not excessive, but it certainly was uncontrolled, or it seemed to us that there was more blasting going on, and the state did not respond to the concerns at all. So I think there may have been one property owner that was to get any relief at all from that activity. So we're conscious of that. I certainly wouldn't want anything like that to happen because my house sits contiguous to this property. So we are aware of that. The intersection has been characterized as borderline as far as efficiency. Studies have been done, although the studies really were considering development on the other side of Blackburn, on the North Blackburn side rather than South Blackburn side, but it would affect that intersection, and there are some issues that should be addressed there. But still, this intersection does serve a B2 classification currently. Mary Ann's concerned about her home, and as I've stated previously, you know, I care about the home very much. My sister and I and our mother were selective in who we sold the property to, and Mary Ann was one that we felt that would make a good neighbor and would care for the house. So we hear her and we understand her concerns. The soil and the terrain, as mentioned, is slip-prone and steep, and if you look at a topographical map, you'll see that my property is not as hilly as the recent development in Westfield Place. And I can share photographs if you care to look at those. The access road serving the motel is approximately 22 feet wide, which most likely would meet the requirements of the development. Also, if any developer, I would think, would consider improvements to the road, which there's sufficient right-of-way to do that. And I think I've shown you previously the curbs and gutters in Westfield Place that could easily be superimposed over this access, which would make it much more pleasant to everyone. In addition to just saying I can't sell it, the improvements of the highway over the last 30, 40 years have changed the dynamics of that property. It doesn't have the appeal that it had 70 years ago when the house was built because of the development that has occurred. It lends itself to multiple type development. The comprehensive plan, as I understand it, refers to the US 32 or US 50 and 32 corridor as an area designated for industrial, as an industrial and commercial corridor. And I think that, from my interpretation, I know the last time when I brought this up, Joanne started shaking her head. Really refers to the area west of the city because my property is provided water, sewer, gas, and electric right at the property line, whereas the corridor that referred to in somebody's comprehensive plan points out that needs to be addressed. As a township trustee, I agree. So in summary, I'd like to say that I'm in favor of responsible development. I have a personal interest that anything that happens there that would be an addition to the neighborhood. Our proposal, I don't believe, is in conflict with any comprehensive plan. The natural evolution of the area makes it attractive for multiple residents, conditional use site. We are contiguous to a B3 or B2, and we have a highway accessibility, and I think any concerns can be reasonably met. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have any questions of him? Anybody else have anything to say?
Hi, my name is Mary Ann Reeves, and I live adjacent to Mr. Weber's property. I bought the house from his mother and the 2 acres, and I love the place very much, and I've tried to take care of it well. Just a couple of points I wanted to clarify again. I think we have the mapping clarified, but now we keep saying that the property for sale is at the intersection of 3250 and South Blackburn Road. Well, my house is at the intersection of 3250 and South Blackburn Road, so that's not exactly the case, and that could be misleading as this is being sold. I don't know. That would be an attractive situation, but unfortunately, my 2 acres are right there on the corner.
I don't know whether it's appropriate for me to say anything. I don't know exactly how we came up with that. I think we came up with that as just as an identifier, not really saying we're including your property.
Okay.
I think it's pretty clear from any map that I've got that represents what we have.
Well, the maps that we had before, it wasn't clear at all. Okay. The property to be rezoned is not contiguous to the motel. There's one point, a corner, that goes to the road, and the motel property goes to the access road. but those properties are not contiguous. So I just want to make that point as well. We don't know that there would be increased traffic. I certainly appreciate Mr. Weber's concerns, but once he sells to a developer, it's completely out of his hands as to what would go in there, and completely out of anybody else's hands. I know that you don't want anything to happen to the neighborhood, Mr. Weber. I understand that completely. So,
No, she's just, let her finish.
okay, but it's out of your control once it's sold. So as much as I appreciate your concerns, you won't have any control over it. As far as potential blasting goes, I noticed the other day that my retaining wall is still moving after all this time of the blasting for Route 33. The retaining wall is still moving around the driveway, the part that I didn't have replaced, and there's a huge crack again. So the blasting that was done means that that land is still not settled. And if any blasting was done now, I have no idea what would happen. You know, I've had so much money put into my house, and no, I didn't receive a penny for any damages because the statutes of limitations ran out. And none of us did in Athens that I'm aware of. I think someone in Meigs County may have received some partial money, but no one that I know of in Athens received any money for the damages that were done. And just one other question I wanted to ask. When we rezone property so that developers would be more interested, I don't know. To me, that just, I wonder if that's what we should be doing, if we should be rezoning just for money to sell the property. Is that what we're doing here? I mean, I don't know. And I know that it's been difficult to sell the land, but if someone wanted to buy it for a house site or 2 house sites, it was zoned for that and no one was interested, I guess. I don't know what the solution is, but I don't know that we should be rezoning just so someone can make money by selling to a developer. I don't know that that's what we should be doing. So that's all I wanted to say, and I think Mr. Weber had additional comments.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody have a question of her before she sits down? Okay. Well, you can, I'll give you half a minute. No, I'll give you a quarter of a minute.
Well, Mary Ann comments that once I sell it, I have no control. First place, I'm not going to sell it to someone that I don't have confidence in. That's number one. And number two, even though you grant a rezoning classification, it still has to go before City Council. I can't give you a plan because I don't have one. But I am confident that I can't move forward without this zoning change. And I think that's, from my understanding, that I'm taking the appropriate step to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. People ready to do things?
Well, we have to have a motion before we can discuss it.
Right. Has to be a positive.
Then it has to be a positive motion.
motion.
All right, well, then it has to be a motion to rezone this piece from R1 to R3.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye, but we want to discuss it first, so we're not ready to vote.
Well, we're not ready to vote.
We're not ready to vote yet,
Yeah.
okay.
It's-
Questions?
The motion is on the floor, okay. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
I know. I'm ready to vote.
Okay, well, having made that motion, I will say that I don't necessarily feel it's spot zoning. It's a big chunk to be called spot zoning, but it does break up what is an R1 zone. And it is only contiguous at that one point with the B2 zone, which was one of the reasons that we said we wouldn't consider it for B2 rezoning. Traffic from that would have to go out on South Blackburn Road, even though it doesn't, the intersection is not part of that parcel. So the more residences you put on that, the more traffic there's going to be on South Blackburn Road. And I don't feel that economic reasons are sufficient reason for rezoning. When it so clearly is breaking up a pattern of zoning that's already established. So those are my comments.
Anybody else?
I guess one of the questions I have, maybe Steve, you can answer for me. Is this still eligible to be subdivided into 5 parcels, or do you know?
I don't know what the frontage is, which would determine that. And I don't, it's pretty hilly.
Any parcel of land can be divided as a minor subdivision, or what's commonly known as a lot split, so long as it has the required minimum area and minimum road frontage requirement. It's a function of if there are curb and gutter there, and what utilities are available. Just right off the top of my head, you'd have to have at least 70 feet of road frontage for each lot, and a minimum area of 8,000 square feet.
But in terms of the overall, this isn't part of a previous subdivision. I mean, as far as you know, it could
No.
be split into 5 pieces.
That's correct. And with
Theoretically.
with an area of 20, I think it's around 20 acres.
Yeah.
24.
Yeah, it could be divided into 5 lots of about a little under 5 acres each,
Okay.
But we don't,
so long as there's sufficient road frontage.
we don't know what the frontage is on
No.
Route 50. That would be the
Well,
only
it's
road
actually
frontage.
on,
Or on the,
That
on the,
access
on the
road.
access
yeah,
road,
on the
yeah.
access road.
Anyway, but that's the only road frontage on that short side of the piece, right? How long is it, Fred, do you
I
know?
really don't know. I'm guessing in around 400 feet.
Yeah, with the
But
packet of
it's-
information you
It
have,
makes it difficult to think of trying to divide it that way because of this pie shape.
in the packet of information you have, there may be a copy of the existing deed that would, the surveyor would call out that distance, but it is several hundred feet, I believe. Because once you turn off South Blackburn Road, it's quite a distance back to the motel.
Why don't you have 2 properties before the motel? Isn't Mr. Cash's property, he has some property there on that road.
Yeah.
Before the-
It's it's beyond the motel as you go
It
back
is?
Cash Lane.
Most of the maps, it's difficult for me to determine exactly where Cash's property is.
Well, this is R1, so it must be in here something. It's so small I can't see it.
And that property is, is this the corporate line?
Dimensions on it
No,
either.
I didn't see, well, I don't have the thing with me, this is other stuff.
I don't see corporation on the line name.
I don't see a deed in here.
It's saying here.
You guess it's in that
Well, I
batch.
guess that's it, yeah.
This-
None of them, do they have any? They don't have any. Can't tell me. I don't remember seeing a copy of the deed, but
No, we got lots of copies of the auditor's tax plat, but that doesn't have dimensions on it.
scale is almost 400.
Okay.
That one, I don't know about the other one. Okay. But it could be divided. You got your answer.
Theoretically. could be
Theoretically.
divided, yeah.
I haven't had anyone approach me with that suggestion.
I'm just thinking of it in terms of, you know, if it were to remain R1, and somebody decided to subdivide it or create a true subdivision of single-family homes, that just as it would if it was an R3, would create a major disruption of the hill. I mean, we're kind of, the area is subject to that no matter which way we go. I think that's one of the things I keep thinking about is what are the positives and negatives of R1 versus R3, and how does that relate to this overall, like you say, corridor? And there really, at this point, is no plan for this corridor, so I don't know if R1 or R3 fits better. I don't know.
The piece of ground between Mrs. Hooker's house and the Athens apartments, someplace along the line was rezoned to R3. I would assume, assumptions get you in trouble, that when it was annexed, all that property would have been R1. So how it got changed, I don't know. I don't know whether you visualize what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know.
The most recent change that we've made is back on,
Perfect, right.
back in here it was a request from the owners, because they all were built as single-family homes, and it was zoned R3, and they wanted to change to R1, which was a year or so ago, as I
Which is what we
recall.
did.
So,
I don't know how it got, I wasn't on, I don't know. What is the access to it if you go up Blackburn Road past her house? In your house, the access from that side of that piece of property? I mean, so if you're going to divide that into 5 lots and their access, instead of getting an access from South Blackburn or from the access road, you would come in from South Blackburn, but at the top of the hill, through your house, through your driveway.
that, if you look at the topography of the land.
I don't have it.
We don't have a topo.
We don't have one.
If that's not a practical interest,
Well, is it less practical than that front one?
much less.
Okay, because I have never been, you haven't invited me to your house, so I've never been, I've been to Millie Hooper's house and to her house, so I mean, my knowledge of the area is right there. Stop right there.
Woman, it is quite steep on that
Okay.
platform. But-
Truly, I've never been out that road
where
that
the
far.
water tower is. That-
Yeah.
I forget now exact terminology, but the city has, I think it's called a movable easement to the water tower. If
Out
you
there,
choose
okay.
to access, you still have access to the water tower.
Well, because I've never been there, so. Yeah. Now, my son's been to your house, I know that, so he could. Just to be fair, since everybody's been visited.
You're welcome, anytime.
Okay, where are you? You have any questions, Mayor? Or anybody ready to vote? Motion's on the floor.
Question?
Okay, all in favor, the motion is to rezone to R3, right?
Right.
All in favor of the motion to rezone this area to R3, say aye. All opposed to zoning this thing to R3, say aye, same sign.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we all said, we're all opposed to doing R3.
I don't quite understand your vote, considering when I came with a request for B3, I was advised it was probably most appropriate to go R3.
Well, I think we did do that just on the top of looking at it briefly. But when we sit and we looked at all the other things here, because you came in and this was when you first came, we looked at it, not having time to have studied it and go out and look and figure it all out, we said that was a more likely thing to do. Now, when we say it's a more likely thing to do, that doesn't mean that we're going to do it. It means that we're going to look at it, and if we still find some problem, then we're still not going to do it, so.
So what's my reason?
Well, I don't know. If we won't, because if we've not voted for it, it doesn't go to city council. We have not approved it. I suppose you could go to court. Can you go to court?
I don't know.
What can he do? Give it.
In the packet of information that I had provided to you, I also had a copy of the code section that applies, and you might want to read that. My reading of it is that no matter what your recommendation is, it has to be forwarded to
Forward
City
to
Council.
city council, so
Okay.
they could change it? I thought if we didn't approve it, it didn't have to go.
It says that the recommendation of the Planning Commission shall either be an approval, a modification, or a denial.
Okay. So
And
they
then it-
need to have
Then
it.
it says the recommendation is forwarded to council. You might want to read that section, just to make sure, but that's,
Okay,
That's how I read it.
because it's an official case and we have to report, I think. I agree with that. I haven't seen it, so there's the deed.
It
I can-
doesn't have a, but it doesn't have a, okay, you want to find it? Unless it's in this book.
section right here.
It's,
You read that right through there?
Okay, within
this
60
is an
days.
amendment to the zoning code, which
Well,
is what this
yeah.
is.
Within 60 days from the receipt of the proposed amendment, the commission shall transmit its recommendation to the city council. If the commission determines that a public hearing is appropriate, then this period may be extended to 90 days, so we've had
Had the
public hearings.
public hearing, yeah.
Notice of the public hearing, so forth. The commission may recommend that the amendment be granted as requested, or it may recommend a modification of the amendment as requested, or it may recommend that the amendment be denied. The written decision of the commission shall indicate the specific reasons upon which the recommendation is based, to include the basis for its determination if the proposed amendment is or is not consistent with the city comprehensive plan. A resolution from city council may specify, well, anyway, that's
Yeah.
in public, then city council can have a public hearing.
Public hearing
and
if
so
they
forth.
want to do it, if they don't agree, but then they're going to.
And they notify the property owners. And then after the hearing and the reviewing the recommendations of the planning commission, city council considers the recommendations and votes on the passage of the proposed classification or reclassification of the zoning map. So it goes to city council with our reasons.
Whether we, with our reasons why we turn it down, then they could change it. Is that right? That's what it is.
And it takes 3/4 of the full members of city council
Yeah, it
to
takes,
change
it
our
takes
recommendation. Takes
larger
6.
vote.
So, would you reiterate your reasons for voting against it?
Well, mine are that I feel that she feels it's a rather large for spot zoning, but it doesn't make any sense to stick in the middle here. That's R1, 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 this is all R1. And I can see no real reason for changing it from it. I mean, I know you think it's a real reason because of trying to sell it and that, but we can't consider that, whether, you know, we can't consider the what's going to go there, how much money you're going to make, or whether you can sell it. We can't do that. We look at the map and see that I can see no logical reason for an R3 there. It's because it's right in the middle of an R1.
I think the trend also in the neighborhood has been to switch it from R3 to R1, which we saw a year ago or so, but it's also, at the time you were originally before us, there was also a proposal for across the road to be moved to an R3. That's since been withdrawn, so it seemed to make, we weren't isolating it just to some 23-acre plot. But this, in this case, we
it's
are.
withdrawn.
It seems like the primary reason is economic in nature rather than, because we don't have any idea what's there. And that does not preclude somebody from having an option on it and having a real plan and doing some real soil studies to be able to come in and say that you can do a PUD in any zone anywhere within the city, even an R1.
Okay. Okay. We don't have any other cases. Do we have any communications? I don't, do you have any communications? I didn't get a communication.
We got it for information purposes that the bond's been released in Blackburn Woods
Oh.
Subdivision.
Okay, because
The
he,
roadway system.
the bond's been released, okay. Okay, I have everything else. Announcements and other business we have.
I guess, are we going to meet next, 2 weeks from now?
Yes.
We have, yes,
Said we were.
It wasn't in the minutes, so that's why I didn't know if we could.
Well, because we decided after the meeting was over.
We talked about it.
No. I better see a lot of TV. What did we decide it was going to be, 2 or 2:30? And where's it going to be? We're going to meet on
Fifth Thursday.
the 5th Thursday to work on,
I didn't hear anybody really say.
you weren't,
when they
No, we
well,
did-
you weren't
we did-
in the
we
room.
All I
talked
have in
about the
minute
signage
is that
stuff.
We talked about
Yeah.
having a special session,
Yeah.
but nobody really knew.
I have it down for the 29th of March, but I didn't have a time down for it. We're going to have our usual
Check for your
time.
eye appointment or something.
Well, they've changed it now. It's on another day. It's not till the 6th
Well, 2
now.
o'clock sounds reasonable. That way we would have 2 hours.
I may not be able to see it all. They change my appointment every other day, so, okay. There are no citizens. Would anybody like to say anything? Nobody.
They all left.
Well, I think that the decision was difficult on that property because I almost voted in favor of the rezoning because the idea might be that if it's an R3 and it's developed that way, there would be more control because it'd go through the, through the
Yeah.
land development ordinance as opposed to split properties of small acreage that might not be subject to that. But there's no guarantee, even if we made it R3, that it wouldn't eventually be subdivided.
Into,
Yeah, to the point where it wouldn't be subject to the land development ordinance anyway. So I don't know, I'm not sure what advantage there is in one versus the
The
other.
other is.
So why change it?
well, that's it, and I just couldn't see. When people come and say they're having trouble selling something, so therefore they want to have it, I find that difficult too. I mean, it is hard to sell it, and I agree that a lot of people could use the help, but can't help it. Minutes of the last meeting.
I move that they be accepted with correction.
Is there a second to that?
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do we have any, usually Steve leaps up and says, but wait, I have something. You're not going to leap up and say, but I have something? Okay. Guess what's next?
I move that we adjourn.
See, she did it. So we're adjourned at 5 minutes after 3.
I'll tell you something.